Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Raven's Readings. I do readings twice a week from various classics. If you subscribe to my free Substack newsletter at ravensview.substack.com, you'll get notified of the next episode and can leave your comments or suggestions. And perhaps also browse my flash fiction writings or musings on the world. I will be reading to you from Very Good Jeeves. It's a collection of short stories written by P.G. Wodehouse in 1930. Jeeves, a very competent valet, and his hapless employer, Bertie Wooster, were characters in dozens of short stories by Wodehouse. I'll split each chapter into 2 podcasts. Jeeves and the Song of Songs. Another day dawned all hot and fresh, and in pursuance of my unswerving policy at that time, I was singing Sonny Boy in my bath when Jeeves's voice filtered through the woodwork. "I beg your pardon, sir." I had just got to that bit about the angels being lonely, where you need every ounce of concentration in order to make the spectacular finish, but I signed off courteously. "Yes, Jeeves, say on." "Mr. Glossop, sir." "What about him?" "He is in the sitting-room, sir." "Young Tuppy Glossop?" "Yes, sir," Jeeves answered in his monosyllabic way. "You say he's in the sitting-room?" I asked. "Yes, sir." "Desiring speech with me?" "Yes, sir." "Sir." I only said, And I'll tell you why I said, It was because the man's story had interested me strangely. And I'll tell you why the man's story had interested me strangely. Owing to a certain episode that had occurred one night at the Drones Club, there had sprung up recently a coolness, as you might describe it, between this Glossop and myself. The news, therefore, that he was visiting me at my flat, especially at an hour when he must have known that I would be in my bath and consequently in a strong strategic position to heave a wet sponge at him, surprised me considerably. I hopped out with some briskness, and slipping a couple of towels about the torso, made for the sitting-room. I found young Tuppy at the piano, playing Sonny Boy with one finger. "What ho!" I said, not without hauteur. "Oh, hello, Bertie," said Tuppy. "I say, Bertie, I want to see you about something important." It seemed to me that the bloke was embarrassed. He had moved to the mantelpiece, and now he broke a vase in a constrained way. "The fact is, Bertie, I'm engaged." "Engaged?" "Engaged," said young Tuppy, coyly dropping a photograph frame upon the fender. "Practically, that is." "Practically?" "Yes, you'd like her, Bertie. Her name is Cora Bellinger. She's studying for opera. Wonderful voice she has, also dark flashing eyes, and a great soul." "How do you mean, practically engaged?" "Oh, well, it's this way. Before ordering the trousseau, there is one little point that she wants clearing up. You see, what with her great soul and all that, she has a rather serious outlook on life, and the one thing she absolutely bars than anything in the shape of great hearty humor. You know, practical joking and so forth. She said if she thought I was a practical joker, she would never speak to me again. And unfortunately, she appears to have heard about that little affair at the Drones. I expect you've forgotten all about that, Bertie?" "I have not." "Oh, no, not forgotten exactly. What I mean is, nobody laughs more heartily at the recollection than you. And what I want you to do, old man, is to seize an early opportunity of taking Cora aside and categorically denying that there's any truth in the story. My happiness, Bertie, is in your hands, if you know what I mean." "Of course, if you put it like that, what could I do? We Woosters have our code." "Oh, all right," I said, but far from brightly. "A splendid fellow." "When do I meet this blighted female?" I asked. Don't call her this blighted female, Bertie, old man. I have planned all that out. I will bring her around here today for a spot of lunch." "What?" "At 1:30. Right? Good, fine, thanks. I know I could rely on you." We pushed off, and I turned to Jeeves, who had shimmered in with the morning meal. "Lunch for 3 today, Jeeves," I said. "Very good, sir." "You know, Jeeves, it's a bit thick. You remember my telling you about Mr. Glossop did to me that night at the Drones? Yes, sir. Well, for months I've been cherishing dreams of a hideous vengeance, and now, so far from crushing him into the dust, I've got to fill him and fiancé with rich food and generally rally round and be the good angel. Life is like that, sir. True, Jeeves. What have we here? I asked, inspecting the tray. Kippered herrings, sir. And I shouldn't wonder, I said, for I was in a thoughtful mood, if even herrings haven't troubles of their own. Quite probably, sir. I mean, apart from getting kippered? Yes, sir. And so it goes on, Jeeves. So it goes on. I can't say I saw exactly eye to eye with young Tuppy in his admiration for the Bellinger female. Delivered on the mat at 125, she proved to be an upstanding light heavyweight of some 30 summers with a commanding eye and a square chin, which I personally would have steered clear of. She seemed to me a good deal like what Cleopatra would have been after going in too freely for the starches and cereals. I don't know why it is, but women who have anything to do with the opera, even if they're only studying it, always appear to run to surplus poundage. Tuppy, however, was obviously all for her. His whole demeanor, both before and during luncheon, was that of one striving to be worthy of a noble soul. When Jeeves offered him a cocktail, he practically recoiled as from a serpent. It was terrible to see the change which love had effected in the man. The spectacle put me off my food. At 2:30, the Bellinger left to go to a singing lesson, and Tuppy trotted after her to the door, bleating and frisking a goodish bit, and then came back and looked at me in a marked manner. Well, Bertie? Well, what? I mean, isn't she? Oh, rather, I said, humoring the poor fish. A wonderful eyes? Oh, rather. A wonderful figure? Quite. A wonderful voice? Here I was able to intone the response with a little more heartiness. The Bellinger, at Tuppy's request, had sung us a few songs before digging in at the trough, and nobody could have denied that her pipes were in great shape. The plaster was still falling from the ceiling. Oh, terrific, I said. Tuppy sighed, and having helped himself to about 4 inches of whiskey and 1 of soda, took a deep, refreshing draught. He said, I needed that. Why didn't you have it at lunch? Oh, well, it's this way, said Tuppy. I have not actually ascertained what Cora's opinions are on the subject of the taking of slight snorts from time to time, but I thought it more prudent to lay off. The view I took was that laying off would seem to indicate a serious mind. It is touch and go, as you might say, at the moment, and the smallest thing may turn the scale. Well, what beats me, I said, is how on earth you expect to make her think you've got a mind at all, let alone a serious one. Oh, well, I have my own methods, Bertie, my old man. I bet they're rotten, Tuppy. Oh, you do you? Said Tuppy warmly. Well, let me tell you, my lad, that's exactly why they're anything but. I'm handling this affair with consummate generalship. Do you remember Beefy Bingham, who was in Oxford with us? I ran into him only the other day. He's a parson now. Yes, down in the East End. Well, he runs a lads' club for the local toughs, the sort of thing. Cocoa and backgammon in the reading room, and occasional clean, bright entertainments in the Oddfellows' Hall, and I've been helping him. I don't suppose I've passed an evening away from the backgammon board for weeks. And Cora is extremely pleased. I've got her to promise to sing on Tuesday at Beefy's next clean, bright entertainment. You have? I absolutely have. And now, mark my devilish ingenuity, Bertie. I'm going to sing, too. Why do you suppose that's going to get you anywhere? Because the way I intend to sing the song I intend to sing will prove to her there are great depths to my nature, whose existence she has not suspected. She will see that rough and lettered audience wiping the tears out of its bally eyes, and she will say to herself, Oh, what ho! The old egg really has a soul. For it is not one of your mouldy comic songs, Bertie. No low buffoonery of that sort for me. It's all about angels being lonely and what not. I uttered a sharp cry. You can't mean you're going to sing Sonny Boy. I jolly well do. I was shocked. Yes, dash it, I was shocked. You see, I held strong views on Sonny Boy. I considered it a song only to be attempted by a few of the elect in the privacy of the bathroom, and the thought of its being murdered in open Oddfellows Hall by a bloke who could treat a pal as young Tuppy had treated me that night of the drones sickened me. Yes, sickened me. I hadn't time, however, to express my horror and disgust, for at that juncture Jeeves came in. "Mrs. Travers has just rung up on the telephone, sir. She desired me to say she'd be calling to see you in a few moments." "Oh, contents noted, Jeeves," I said. "Now listen, Tuppy," I began. I stopped. The fellow wasn't there. "Mr. Glossop has left, sir." "Left? How can he have left? He was sitting right there." "That is the front door closing now, sir." "But what made him shoot off like that?" "Possibly Mr. Glossop did not wish to meet Mrs. Travers, sir." "Why not?" "I could not say, sir, but undoubtedly at the mention of Mrs. Travers' name he rose very swiftly." "Strange, Jeeves." "Yes, sir." I turned to the subject of more moment. "Jeeves," I said, "Mr. Glossop proposes to sing Sonny Boy at an entertainment down in the East End next Tuesday, before an audience consisting mainly of costermongers, with a sprinkling of whelk stall owners, purveyors of blood oranges, and minor pugilists." "Indeed, sir." "Make a note to remind me to be there. He will infallibly get the bird, and I want to witness his downfall." "Very good, sir." "And when Mrs. Travers arrives, I shall be in the sitting-room." Those who know Bertie Wooster best are aware that in his journey through life he is impeded and generally snookered by about as scaly a collection of ants as was ever assembled. But there is one exception to the general ghastliness, viz. My Aunt Dahlia. She married old Tom Travers, the year Bluebottle won the Cambridgeshire, and is one of the best. It's always a pleasure to me to chat with her, and it was with a courtly geniality that I rose to receive her as she sailed over the threshold at about 2:55. She seemed somewhat perturbed and plunged into the agenda without delay. Aunt Dahlia is one of those big, hearty women. She used to go in a lot for hunting, and she generally speaks as if she just sighted a fox on the hillside half a mile away. "Bertie," she cried, in the manner of one encouraging a platoon of hounds to renewed efforts, "I want your help." You shall have it, Aunt Dahlia," I said suavely. "I can honestly say there's no one to whom I would more readily do a good turn, no one to whom I am more delighted to be." "Less of it," she begged, "less of it. You know that friend of yours, young Glossop? He's just been lunching here." "He has he? Well, I wish he'd poisoned his soup." "Well, we didn't have soup, and when you describe him as a friend of mine, I wouldn't quite say the term absolutely squared with the facts. Some time ago, one night when we'd been dining together at the Drones—" At this point, Aunt Dahlia, a little brusquely it seemed to me, said she'd rather wait for the story of my life until she could get it in book form. I could see now that she was definitely not her usual sunny self, so I shelved my personal grievances and asked what was biting her. "It's that young hound Glossop," she said. "What's he been doing?" "Breaking Angela's heart." Angela, daughter above, my cousin, quite a good egg. "What?" I said. "I said he's breaking Angela's heart." "You say he's breaking Angela's heart?" She begged me to suspend the vaudeville cross-talk stuff. "Okay, how's he doing that?" I asked. "With his neglect, with his low, callous, double-crossing duplicity." "Duplicity is the word, Aunt Dahlia," I said. "And treating of young Glossop, it springs naturally to the lips. Let me tell you what he did to me one night at the Drones. We had finished dinner. Ever since the beginning of the season," she said, "up to 3 weeks ago, he was all over Angela. The sort of thing which, when I was a girl, we should have described as courting." "Or wooing?" "Wooing or courting, whichever you like." "Whichever you like, Aunt Dahlia," I said courteously. "Well, anyway, he haunted the house, lapped up daily lunches, took her out dancing half the night, and so on, till naturally the poor kid, who's quite off her oats about him, took it for granted it was only a question of time before he suggested they should feed for life out of the same crib. And now he's gone and dropped her like a hot brick, and I hear he's infatuated with some girl he met at a Chelsea tea party. A girl named, now, what was it? Cora Bellinger. How did you know?" "She was lunching here today." "He brought her?" "Yes." "Oh, what's she like?" pretty massive, in shape a bit on the lines of the Albert Hall. Did he seem very fond of her? Couldn't take his eyes off the chassis. The modern young man, said Aunt Delia, was a pot of poison, and wants a nurse to lead him by the hand and some strong attendant to kick him regularly at intervals of a quarter of an hour. I tried to point out the silver lining. If you ask me, Aunt Delia, I said, I think Angela's well out of it. This Glossop is a tough baby. One of London's toughest. I was trying to tell you just now what he did to me one night at the Drones. First, having got me in sporting mood with a bottle of the ripest, he bet me I wouldn't swing myself across the swimming pool by the ropes and rings. And I knew I could do it on my head, so I took him on, exulting in the fun, so to speak. And when I'd done half the trip and was going strong, I found he'd looped the last rope back against the rail, leaving me no alternative but to drop into the depths and swim ashore in my correct evening costume. He did. He certainly did. It was months ago, and I haven't got really dry yet. You wouldn't want your daughter to marry a man capable of a thing like that. Oh, on the contrary, you restore my faith in the young hound. I see that there must be lots of good in him after it all, and I want this Bellinger business broken up, Bertie. How? I don't care how, any way you please. But what can I do? Do? Why, put the whole thing before your man Jeeves. Jeeves will find a way. One of the most capable fellers I ever met. Put the thing squarely up to Jeeves and let nature take its course. There may be something in what you say, Aunt Delia, I said thoughtfully. Of course there is, said Aunt Delia. A little thing like this will be child's play to Jeeves. Get him working on it right away, and I'll look in tomorrow to hear the result. With that, she biffed off, and I summoned Jeeves to the presence. Jeeves, I said, you've heard it all? Yes, sir. I thought you would. Aunt Delia has what you might call a carrying voice. Has it ever occurred to you that if all other sources of income failed, she could make a good living calling the cattle home across the sands of Dee? I had not considered the point, sir, but no doubt you are right. Well, how do we go? What is your reaction? I think we should do our best to help and assist. Yes, sir. I am fond of Aunt Delia, and I am fond of Angela. Fond of them both, if you get my drift. What the misguided girl finds to attract her in young Tuppy, I cannot say, Jeeves, and you cannot say, but apparently she loves the man, which shows it can be done. I think I wouldn't have believed myself, and in his pining way like patience on a monument, sir. I like patience, as you very shrewdly remark, on a monument. So we must cluster round, bend your brain to the problem, Jeeves. It is one that will tax you to the utmost. Aunt Delia blew in on the morrow, and I rang the bell for Jeeves. He appeared looking brainier than one could have believed possible, with sheer intellect shining from every feature, and I could see at once that the engine had been turning over. Speak, Jeeves, I said. Very good, sir. You have brooded? Yes, sir. With what success? I have a plan, sir, which I fancy may produce satisfactory results. Let's have it, said Aunt Delia. In affairs of this description, madame, the first essential is to study the psychology of the individual. The what? The psychology, madam. He means the psychology, I said. Oh, said Aunt Delia. And by psychology, Jeeves, I went on to help the things along, you imply? The natures and dispositions of the principles in the matter, sir. Oh, you mean what they're like? Precisely, sir. Does he talk like this when you're alone, Bertie? Asked Aunt Delia. Well, sometimes, occasionally, and on the other hand, sometimes not. Proceed, Jeeves. Well, sir, if I may say so, the thing that struck me most forcibly about Miss Bellinger when she was under my observation was that hers was a somewhat imperious nature. I could envisage Miss Bellinger applauding success. I could not so easily see her pitying and sympathizing with failure. Possibly you recall, sir, her attitude when Mr. Glossop endeavored to light her cigarette with his automatic lighter. I thought I detected a certain impatience at his inability to produce the necessary flame. Oh, true, Jeeves. She ticked him off. Precisely, sir. Let me get this straight, said Aunt Delia. You think if he goes on trying to light her cigarette with his automatic lighter long enough, she will eventually get fed up and hand him the mitten? I merely mentioned the episode, madame, as an indication of Miss Bellinger's somewhat ruthless nature. Ruthless, I said, is right. The Bellingers hard-boiled. Those eyes, that chin, I can read them, a vicious specimen if there ever was one. Precisely, sir. I think, therefore, that should Miss Bellinger be a witness of Mr. Glossop's appearing to disadvantage in public, she would cease to entertain affection for him, in the event, for instance, of his failing to entertain the audience on Tuesday with his singing. I saw daylight. By Jove, Jeeves, you mean if he gets the bird, all will be off? I shall be greatly surprised if such is not the case, sir. I shook my head. We cannot leave this thing to chance, Jeeves. Young Tuppy singing Sonny Boy is the likeliest prospect for the bird that I can think of, but you see for yourself we must do more than simply trust to luck. We need not trust to luck, sir. I would suggest that you approach your friend Mr. Bingham and volunteer your services at his forthcoming entertainment. It could be readily arranged to have you sing immediately before Mr. Glossop. I fancy, sir, that if Mr. Glossop were to sing Sonny Boy directly after you had sung Sonny Boy, the audience would respond satisfactorily. By the time Mr. Glossop began to sing, they would have lost their taste for that particular song and would express their feelings warmly. "Oh, Jeeves," said Aunt Dahlia, "you're a marvel." "Thank you, madame." "Jeeves," I said, "you're an ass." "What do you mean he's an ass?" said Aunt Dahlia hotly. "I think it's the greatest scheme I ever heard." "Well, me sing Sonny's Boy at Beefy Bingham's clean, bright entertainment? Well, I can see myself." "You sing it daily in your bath, sir. Mr. Wooster," said Jeeves, turning to Aunt Dahlia, "has a pleasant, light baritone." "I bet he has," said Aunt Dahlia. Checked the man with one of my looks. "Between singing Sonny Boy in one's bath, Jeeves, and singing it before a hall full of assorted blood-orange merchants and their young, there is a substantial difference. Bertie," said Aunt Dahlia, "you'll sing and you'll like it." "I will not." "Bertie," "Nothing will induce." "Bertie," said Aunt Dahlia firmly, "you will sing Sonny Boy on Tuesday, the 3rd prox, or may an aunt's curse—" "I won't." "Think of Angela." "Dash Angela." "Bertie—" "No, I mean, hang it all. You won't?" "No, I won't." "That's your last word, is it?" "It is. Once and for all, Aunt Dahlia, nothing will induce me to let out so much as a single note." And so that afternoon I sent a prepaid wire to Beefy Bingham offering my services in the cause, and by nightfall the thing was fixed up. I was billed to follow next but one after the emission. Following me came Tuppy. Immediately after him, Miss Cora Bellinger, the well-known operatic soprano. How these things happen, I couldn't say. The chivalry of the Woosters, I suppose. "Jeeves," I said that evening, and I said it coldly, "I should be glad if you'll pop round to the nearest music shop and procure me a copy of Sonny Boy. It will now be necessary for me to learn both the verse and refrain. Of the trouble and nervous strain which this will involve, I say nothing." "Very good, sir." "But this I do say—" "I had better be starting immediately, sir, or the shop will be closed." "Ha!" I said, and I meant it to sting. End of episode. Well, this seems like a simple solution to the problem. Almost too easy. Do you see any flaws? Just a reminder, if you subscribe to my free newsletter at ravensview.substack.com, you'll get notified of my updates as soon as they're ready. Plus, you can browse the various short stories and musings I have in there. If you enjoyed this reading or have other classics you'd like to hear, do leave me a comment. Check out my other posts on my Substack, and remember to share this with your friends. Ta-ta for now.